let's take a look at these 10 idiot kebabs that somehow avoided the horror movie spit. I am the foolproof Ash from What Culture, and these are the 10 dumbest horror movie decisions that people survived. 10. Protecting a wounded stranger. The Purge. Confined to the home of the Sandin family, we watch the first Purge movie play out in upper-class harmony. Or at least it would be a particularly upper-class, harmonious Purge night, but they all just stuck to the incredibly simple survival plan of do not let strangers in on the one night a year everyone starts murdering each other for fun. It really is that easy. James assures his family that their home's high-tech security system will keep them safe from purgers, only for his son, Charlie, to notice a wounded man outside, and after barely a moment's thought, he disables the security system to provide him sanctuary. Was Charlie's act the morally right thing to do? Probably, but it also ensured that the purgers had their sights forcibly set on the Sandin household. Good going, Charlie. Of course, despite being a particularly empathetic idiot, Charlie survives the night. Quite how, I am not sure, but his dad was not so lucky. 9. Leaving the store. The Mist. As much as the misty madness makes everyone a little on edge throughout Stephen King's weird world of worrisome woes, or rather a paranormal weather phenomenon that conjures up all sorts of beasties, there is one character who appears to seal their fate early on in the movie, shortly after a group of the town's residents ends up trapped in a supermarket as the titular spooky mist covers the town. Ooh. One of the civilians is Melissa McBride, who left her kids at home and, despite the protests of her fellow shoppers, decides to head out into the white void to find her children. It is a bravely stupid or stupidly brave move, and genre conventions indicate that we probably will not be seeing her again, and if we do, it will be smeared across the car park. But lo and behold, in the film's jaw-dropping final scene where the mist clears as the military defeats the Lovecraftian monsters, David sees her driving past in a military transport with her kids safely in tow. Somehow she survived, and to rub salt into the wound, David literally just murdered his own son and several fellow survivors, believing they were all about to be devoured by interdimensional horrors. Whoops, who's the dum-dum now, eh, David? It's you. 8. Gordon sawing his foot off as his first option. Saw. While nobody would act 100% rationally if they awoke chained up in a grotty bathroom, it is still safe to say that Dr. Gordon's decision to cut off his own foot in Saw was not thought through particularly well. After hearing a phone call of his wife and daughter being tortured by Jigsaw's pawn Zepp, a shocked Gordon throws the phone out of reach and makes only a quick, half-assed attempt to grab it again. Seeing no other option, he hastily resorts to chopping off his own foot to escape Jigsaw's lair, crawling off into the night to return later in the series as Jigsaw's special guest star a few films later. But Gordon was not that far away from the phone, and clearly could have either used the hacksaw or his own shirt to bring the phone closer to him, in turn allowing him to call his wife and learn that, in fact, she fended Zepp off. A modicum of thought from the literal doctor would have revealed the chop was not necessary. But hey, I guess that's what they call putting your foot into it. Zing. 7. Attempting to catch a cat. The Night Eats the World. Now, this lovely little atmospheric French horror might seem packed to the brim with smart choices. With a protagonist that is prepared to hash out the apocalypse in an apartment he has painstakingly transformed into a zombie-proof shelter, The Night Eats the World shows us a fella that has a good old-fashioned forward thinking. But let's get real also here, Sam makes some blindingly stupid decisions. The one-man drum show that draws a whole host of undead to his location comes to mind. However, that is nothing compared to him running after a cat he is trying to catch for company and into a horde of zombies, who of course leave him injured. Sam then attempts to monitor his condition and see if he is infected. He promptly falls asleep on a shotgun he has propped under his head for the worst case scenario, and only wakes up when he accidentally fires it past his shoulder whilst unconscious. Just Jesus, Sam, get it together. 6. Dumping Jason in Camp Crystal Lake. Friday the 13th, Part 6. Jason Lives. Tommy Jarvis may be the protagonist of the Friday the 13th franchise, but that does not mean he is the sharpest knife in the drawer. His actions in Jason Lives are particularly suspect, beginning with him deciding to dig up Jason Voorhees' corpse to incinerate it, but in turn inadvertently allowing Jason to be resurrected, because of course he does. But Tommy's plan at the end of the movie is even less logical, as he intends to stop Jason once and for all by chaining him to a boulder at the bottom of Camp Crystal Lake. As much as Jason famously hates water, leaving him dormant at the bottom of a lake is just asking for trouble, because if the guy can literally come back from being buried, why wouldn't he find a way way to escape being chained up underwater. Inevitably, that is exactly what happened at the start of the next movie, but Tommy didn't have to deal with it because he never made another canonical appearance in the franchise, suggesting he survived and went on to live his life whilst Jason's rampage continued elsewhere. Good. Nice. Good, Tommy. 5. Staying in the house another night. Poltergeist. Granted, this is a different kind of stupid that is born from naivety. But why, oh why, when you have literally just got your child back from some crazy hell dimension the other side of a TV screen, would you stay in the same house that almost consumed her? It's madness! It is madness! Negligent madness! The Freelings decide to stay another night in their traumatic home as it has been declared clean by a spiritual medium, which is fair enough and all, but after you have pissed off some otherworldly entity known only as the Beast, do you not think you'd at least keep an eye on your little girl that it intended to kidnap and keep for its own in another sphere of consciousness? Of course, the Freelings make it out in the end thanks to some frantic escaping. But that they had to run out at all feels just a bit ridiculous considering the trauma that they had already undergone. If it was bad enough to move house that quickly, just stay somewhere else for the night, surely. Or at the very least, don't let poor Carol Ann sleep in the same room where an evil portal cropped up that sucked her in the first place. 4. Breaking the barrier. The Curse of La Llorona. This one is so unconsciously stupid that it is likely to have you screaming at your TV, no matter how polite you usually are to the thing. In the Conjuring spin-off, The Curse of La Llorona, it is established late in the movie that special seeds can be spread across the threshold of a building to stop the titular ghost from entering. Smart. And so, with these seeds spread at all the entrances to her house, it seems that Anna Tate Garcia and her family are safe, right? Except Anna's spectacularly idiotic daughter, Sam, realises she left her doll outside the threshold, and whilst reaching to grab it, accidentally breaks the line of seeds, allowing La Llorona to grab her and very nearly drown her. Dumb. Even for the low logic standards of children in horror movies, this is absolutely infuriating. Just leave it for a bit, man. Staying alive for the evening is a bit more important, really, isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it? 3. Chilling at the lake house. It Follows. Now, I have spoken about It Follows ending being a dumb decision before, by the graces of actually being designed that way. Jay, who is suffering from a diddling disease where having sex brings about an invisible entity intent on killing you dead, and Jay's pals as well, come up with the hilariously inane plan to kill the seemingly unstoppable entity by luring it into a swimming pool and electrocuting it. It does not go well at all. Director David Robert Mitchell has stated in interviews that he made their plan intentionally bad, and I quote, "It is the stupidest plan ever. It is a kid movie plan. It's something that Scooby-Doo and the gang might think of, and that was sort of the point." So the part I'm going to pinpoint for this list is the moment that Jay, again, who has been afflicted with a disease that means she is constantly hunted down by a supernatural force that will end her life should it get near her, decides the best way to counteract this never-ending hunt is to sit very still in front of some water for a while to let it catch up. When the thing grabs her by the hair, she has the audacity to look surprised. 2. Going back to unmask Ghostface. Scream 2. Though the first 2 Scream movies in particular do a fantastic job of poking fun at tired horror tropes, they also occasionally fall victim to the very thing they are satirizing. Case in point, we have the deliciously tense car crash sequence in Scream 2, where Sidney and her best pal Hallie are trapped in the back of a police car crashed by Ghostface. Sid and Hallie then both crawl over the killer's unconscious body in order to escape the car, ignoring the fact that they could use either Ghostface's knife or the dead officer's gun to shoot Ghostface and end the whole sorry scenario right there. Well, there is another killer, but that's a different story. Instead, they escape the car without touching Ghostface, allowing him or her to get away, only for Sidney to then decide that she's going to go and unmask the guy after all, but still not kill the Ghostface. Big mistake, Sid, as he then pops out and gets Hallie for incompetence in the meantime, and Sidney only escapes herself by pegging it. You're smarter than this. Sid survives the movie, but had she killed Ghostface when she had the chance, she could have saved a number of lives, most of all, her best friend. Or even more easily, she could have just not turned around and tried to unmask him when she decided to leave the car already. 1. Not shooting Dollface when given the chance. The Strangers Pray at Night. Roughly 2/3 of the way through the weirdly 80s obsessive The Strangers Pray at Night, Luke rescues his sister Kinsey from an attack by the murderous Dollface, one of the strangers who killed not only their parents, but also their aunt and uncle just for the lols. At this moment, Luke has Dollface dead to rights. He's got a gun pointed point blank at her face, and she has brought a knife to said gunfight, and we all know how that goes. But frustratingly, Luke cannot bring himself to pull the trigger, opting instead to flee, even while Kinsey angrily urges him to shoot her. Hell, even Dollface herself asks him, "Are you gonna shoot me?" If that is not bad enough, Kinsey tries to grab the gun and do it herself, but Luke drags her away. Incredibly, brother and sister still manage to defeat the strangers and survive the movie, albeit a bit stabbed. But initially sparing Dollface's life allowed her to kill a cop before being killed herself, eventually at the hands of a far more capable Kinsey.